And as promised, this is the Daniel Bryan-centric video that I said I was going to do. And I've got a lot to get through in regards to Daniel Bryan and my feelings on him and how the fans react to him and how the WWE handles him and the status of his character right now and all of that. First off, I want to start off with something that I see on a lot of message boards and a lot of the internet fans say. And it's almost become kind of a joke where they want Daniel Bryan to be pushed because he's one of their boys. And he's one of the internet favorites. And they want him to be pushed. So the joke is that, oh, well, Daniel Bryan will never get pushed or whatever. So it was like, what would you do to fix the WWE? Push Daniel Bryan, like Vince will ever do that, or whatever. To which I respond, in what universe has Daniel Bryan not been pushed? This is a guy, and I'm not even talking the recent stretch of matches he's had for, let's say, the last month, where he's really, really been red hot. But I'm going to get into that in a little bit. You know, they put him together with Kane, formed a tag team. They basically rebuilt the tag team division just so Daniel Bryan could be a centric part of the a more important focal point of the show. They rebuilt the tag team division to the point where the tag team division now is at least, it's not great, but it's better than it was, and it has been for the previous decade. He was the World Heavyweight Champion. Him in the tag team with Team Hell No with Kane has been a bigger role for him than being the World Heavyweight Champion was, because when he was World Heavyweight Champion, he was just kind of the guy holding the world title that nobody cares about. And, you know, his feud with Sheamus, I'm going back into my weird mispronunciations again, but his feud with Sheamus, again, feud, I use that term loosely, was very undefined, very underdeveloped, and nobody really gave a damn about it. So him as world champion never really clicked. Him in this tag team, though, that did click with a lot of people and only served to get him over even more. Obviously, the 18-second match, I think, got people to get pissed off over how that happened, and that got him really over. And that led to a main event program with Punk that they did. And their stuff was really good, I thought, especially the no-holds-barred match that they had. And I thought the build-up going to that was mostly good, and everything came off rather well. But this is a guy that has been a major player pretty much ever since the 18-second match and that whole fiasco, which I was not pissed off about that like a lot of internet fans were. I understand it if you're just a diehard Daniel Bryan fan, and I'm a fan of Daniel Bryan's, but I didn't give a shit about that match anyway. I was only pissed off that the match came at the start of the show, and that was going to be my piss break match. Come on. Because I didn't give a shit. And that's not a reflection on Daniel Bryan or Sheamus. It's just, a reflection on the horrible writing and promotion of that particular match. And gave me no reason to care. But Daniel Bryan, ever since that happened, and, the initial spark that took place after that happened, and the outrage from the fans, and the yes and no chants becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger from that point on, Daniel Bryan has been a major part of the show since then. Has been a regular part of television, and I'm just sitting there, like, whenever I read those comments saying, it's like, oh, well, Daniel Bryan's not getting pushed. Says who? He's one of the bigger parts of the show, and has been for a long time. I guess it's kind of like, this is where I get mad at the WWE and TNA to a degree. They'll go through periods where the only guys that matter are the ones going for the world title. And that's how they treat their guys, and it shouldn't be that way. Like, the Tag Team Championship should be something that's important. The Intercontinental Championship should be something that's important. And too often the WWE kind of just goes like, the main event's all that matters, and everything else is just kind of, we'll fill in the blanks as we go. And most of it, the IC title, women's title, tag titles, it's typically filler. And I guess the fans have kind of bought into that mentality, because in their minds it's like, well, Daniel Bryan's not being pushed to a world title, so that means he's not being pushed. And that couldn't be any further from the truth. I mean, this partnership with Kane gets so much TV time. They've given them comedy segments. They've given them oodles and oodles. Yes, I'm saying oodles. Gave them just a ton of TV time to get this act over. And it worked. It did get over, and the more they got over, the more TV time they got. Dr. Shelby got over, for God's sake, being put in with them. And, Daniel Bryan's character for me during the Team Hell No thing, it was largely, it's a one-note comedy character. Sometimes it's really funny, sometimes it's not so funny, and it kind of falls flat, but it is what it is. It's just a one-dimensional comedy act, and being in the tag team has been a showcase for Daniel Bryan, his ring work, and it's been a way to get him in the ring regularly in a tag team match format where Daniel Bryan, put him in the ring in any position, he's going to shine because that's how good he is. So it really plays into a lot of Daniel Bryan's strengths in that aspect, and it got him over with the fans even more. And even if it is just him yelling, one-syllable words at the top of his lung, it did help him to get over with the fans, even more than he already was. And they never shied away from promoting that or pushing that or utilizing that. So I don't understand this mindset of, Daniel Bryan's not being pushed, because that's not true at all. And just because he's not being pushed to a world title doesn't mean he's not being pushed. I think that's erroneous, a very erroneous mindset. And when I was a kid, Mr. Perfect was the shit to me. I looked at him as that guy's the shit. It was well, would you want him to go for the WWF title? I'm but the Intercontinental title is his belt. That's his belt. He owns it. To me, the Intercontinental title was to Perfect what the $1 Million title was to Ted DiBiase. It's no, you don't understand. Nobody else is allowed to hold that belt. It's Perfect's belt. I remember I was so pissed off when Texas Tornado beat him at SummerSlam. I was no, that's horseshit. No, it's Perfect's belt. Fuck you, Tornado. Of course, I feel bad now. Both of them have passed away, but whatever. D'Lo Brown was another one when he was European champion, and he was the third tier champion, and it was an awesome spot for him. I was a huge mark for the guy, and he was would you like him to get pushed higher? Maybe to IC, but not to the main event because he'd only gets lost in the shuffle. But he's doing awesome in this role, so keep him in this role, and he'll do fine. And he's over, he's awesome, and I love it, so it's great. That doesn't mean he's not being pushed. That just means he's not in the main event. There's a distinct difference. D'Lo Brown was being pushed. It just wasn't to the main event, and that's fine. It's all about finding a role that works for you, and D'Lo Brown worked better in that role in my eyes. And Daniel Bryan did just fine as part of Team Hell No, and was pushed and featured regularly as a significant part of the show. So I don't buy into that logic that Daniel Bryan hasn't been pushed. He's been pushed for a long time, as far as I'm concerned. But like I said, the weaknesses with him more fell on the character, with me anyway. How I don't think him being the comedy act that shouts at the top of his lungs, yes or no at the top of his lungs for the sake of a laugh, which again, whether or not those comedy segments work, it's hit or miss. That to me doesn't work as a main eventer. I'm no, he's fine where he is, but I don't know if I could buy that as a main eventer. However, since WrestleMania, and especially since they've been doing this string of matches with The Shield, and these matches with The Shield between the Shield and Team Hell No have been absolutely fucking amazing. Just amazing. And Daniel Bryan is a large part of that. He's become the best hot tag guy in the business. It's just every time he gets a hot tag, it's great. And part of what has made it so great, it's not just the matches, it's the storyline and the character development going into it, where Daniel Bryan feels responsible for losing the tag titles. He feels responsible for losing the matches and is obsessed with being called the weak link, which isn't true. The fans who love him are no, it's not true. You are not the weak link. You are awesome. Which is why they go even more apeshit when he gets that hot tag. It just goes... And Daniel Bryan is, somehow gotten better in the ring, if that was even possible. And it's, just even more sparked up. And the fans are getting more and more behind him. And even his partner, Kane, is look, I respect the hell out of you. Nobody has your drive or your passion. You're awesome. You are not the weak link. Bret Hart is telling him, you are not the weak link. But it's something in his brain. You can see why he feels that way, because he's the one eating the pins in these matches. But it's not really his fault. This last one on Raw, I was well, that was Orton's fault. That ain't Daniel Bryan's fault. Fuck that. But it's really worked well for Bryan in that it's made him a very sympathetic character. And the stuff they did with him on Raw this week, where he lost the match to the Shield and then went out there and challenged Ryback to prove himself, that was very well done. And he went out there and, worked his heart out against Ryback, and it was so easy to get behind Bryan while watching that match. That might be the best match I've ever seen Ryback have. It was really, really good. And again, the strength of Daniel Bryan's character and his motivations, and I can fully understand where he's coming from and why he feels the way he does, but I'm rooting for him. It's I want him to succeed because he is an underdog. That is a true underdog, not the John Cena bullshit overcoming the odds when John Cena wins all the fucking time. So at this point, he's the odds, And he's not overcoming the odds, he's the odds. So whenever they say that John Cena's the underdog, I just call bullshit. And it's like, yeah, whatever, that's an underdog. Yeah, Tom Brady's an underdog too, okay. Yeah, LeBron James is an underdog, okay. They overcome the odds, all right. Sure. No, but Daniel Bryan is a true underdog. And what they've been doing with him the last few weeks has really made his character really, really strong. And I've made comparisons to, he's the PG era equivalent right now, and what they've done with him the last few weeks. He's the PG era equivalent to Mick Foley was, what Mick Foley was in the Attitude Era. Mick Foley was at his best. Survivor Series 1998 was one of the best booked nights during the entire Attitude Era because they turned Rock heel in that awesome swerve. That was a good swerve. See, swerves can be good if you do them right, if you don't do them in high volume and with high frequency, and they just get annoying. But that one really worked, and it got all the heat on McMahon and The Rock, and it really put a lot of sympathy on Mick Foley because you saw it's like, oh my God, he got played, he got duped, he's the biggest victim in all of this, and it really made Mick Foley the most sympathetic character in wrestling, and it really put him on that path to where he became one of the most popular guys on the show. And even though, when you think of the Attitude Era, you associate it with The Rock and Steve Austin. Those are the two guys that instantly pop up, especially Austin. But Foley was like the next step down, and was extremely popular, extremely popular, and it was because he was that sympathetic, heartfelt guy that you could get behind. He was that underdog, and I said it, when Foley won the title on that episode of Monday Night Raw. It's my favorite moment in Raw history. It's one of my favorite title changes of all time. It's one of the few wrestling match outcomes that actually kind of brings a tear to my eye. The only other one that comes close that I can think of would be Savage and Liz when they were united at WrestleMania 7 after the career-ending match. There aren't many wrestling matches that kind of bring a tear to my eye, but that one does, when Foley won the belt, and it's because he was this great underdog. It was like the ending to Rudy or Rocky, a movie like that, where it's just like this underdog, he did it. He did it, and it's awesome. And it was just a beautifully told story, and that's Daniel Bryan's character right now, where he's just this perfect, sympathetic underdog with the heart of a champion and goes out there and fights his ass off and has excellent matches along the way. It really complements his in-ring style, and it's great. Actually, if I, going into other comparisons, I used to say that Mick Foley was the Neville Longbottom of the WWF. Neville Longbottom is a Harry Potter character, and again, when you think of Harry Potter, you think of Harry, Hermione, and Ron as kind of the main characters, and Voldemort being the top heel, basically. But Neville was kind of the next step down, and when you look at the book series as a whole, and not so much in the movies because they cut out a lot of stuff, but in the books, Neville probably has the most satisfying character arc in the entire book series, even though he's not one of the main characters, but he's the most sympathetic character, and he's the one that I kind of got behind the most because he was the perfect underdog. There was nothing special about him. He just had all the tragedy in his backstory and was kind of the lovable loser. So when he finally has his big hero moment in the last book, it's probably my favorite moment. It's the best payoff in the last book, in my opinion. And yeah, I just tied Harry Potter to wrestling. How about that? And Daniel Bryan is that character right now. Yes, Daniel Bryan is a Neville, and I mean that in the best possible way because right now he's just, the fans love him. And they already loved him through the yes chance and the no chance. I said it at WrestleMania. He was the most universally loved guy in the building because Undertaker, the fans were split. Most of the fans hated Cena. And the response to the Rock Cena match was so lukewarm it didn't even matter. We sat on our hands for Triple H. Even Shawn Michaels. Daniel Bryan was the most universally liked guy there. CM Punk was the heel. He wasn't supposed to be as liked as he was, but he was. Against him and Undertaker, it was split. So Daniel Bryan was the most liked guy there, and the fans just loved him. And it's gotten even bigger since then because they've given his character a bigger direction. It's like, all right, before he was kind of a one-note comedy character, now he's this perfect underdog, sympathetic character that I want to see win because I know he tries his best. I know he's one of the best guys they have. He's got all the talent and the heart in the world, and I want to see him succeed. And that's the joy of the character right now. It's like, okay, I want to see this guy win. I want to see him succeed. And it's really making him one of the best characters on the show. It's like, all right, the one-note comedy character, that's great for yucks and he'll have some good matches, and that's great. That's all wonderful. But this character that he's got right now, and this development that he's turned into, okay, this is something I can get behind as a main event character. This is something that I can sink my teeth into and really excites me. It's like, okay, this is interesting. I like this. I like this a lot. And, he was the MVP of Raw this week, no doubt. Between the six-man tag and the match with Ryback and all these segments in between, I mean, he basically ruled the show, and he was fantastic. It was just great writing, great stuff, great performances in the backstage segments. How often do I say that? The Daniel Bryan character has been advanced beautifully right now, and the fans are loving him more and more and more. Where to take him from here? My fear is that they're going to turn him heel, and he's going to get so frustrated that he turns heel and beats up Kane, and it leads to that. And I was thinking that was going to happen. And okay, eventually when they do the Team Hell No Split, Bryan's going to turn heel and turn on Kane, and they're going to have a feud or whatever. If they do that now, I would be really disappointed because I think they're squandering an opportunity to really take Daniel Bryan to the next level and to really make this a really bona fide main event character of a Mick Foley-esque character. I think turning him heel would be a mistake, and I wouldn't want to see that. I don't even want to see Team Hell No feud. I think if they break up, it should be kind of a mutual, Kane is just lets him go. And it's like, look, you go off and you be the champion or whatever. And that leads me into what I want. Given how the Ryback match ended on Raw this week, where it's like, oh my God, Daniel Bryan could actually beat Ryback. Oh my God. And Ryback just got frustrated and put him through a table and caused the DQ and all that stuff. It was like, I think that's an empty story hole that they could plug up in the future. I would have Ryback beat Cena for the title because, God help me, we're all sick to death of seeing, the underdog, John Cena, overcome the odds and beat the monster Ryback. That is boring. We've seen that a million times. Let's have Ryback win and then build up the Daniel Bryan versus Ryback down the road sometime this summer, possibly at SummerSlam. Let's do that. I think that would be interesting. I think, give Daniel Bryan a big win or something, kind of that proof that, look, I'm not the weak link. He gets a big win, and ultimately he gets put in there with Ryback. And those big little guy matches are so great anyway. I mean, Shawn Michaels, those were his best matches. Working with guys like Undertaker, Diesel. Those were Nash's best matches. His matches with Shawn and Bret. But I just love the size differential type of matches. It's a natural story to tell. It's David versus Goliath. Even Hogan versus Andre was interesting just because Andre was twice Hogan's size. It was like, holy shit, how is Hogan going to beat this guy? It's an interesting dynamic for me. I get behind that. Of course, I read my Bible when I was a kid, and David versus Goliath is a lot of fun. So maybe that's why. I don't know. But that's what I would do with Daniel Bryan. Eventually build him up to getting that big underdog WWE title win and have it come at a SummerSlam or something like that. Because if they just turn him heel and then feed him to Cena, I am so gonna get... I would just roll my eyes at that. I'm like, oh, don't do that. No. But I say run with Daniel Bryan as a babyface and, give the fans that payoff. Give them the satisfying Daniel Bryan victory for the underdog. Give him that Rudy or Rocky or Neville or Mick Foley type of moment. That's what I would do, and that's what I want to see. But right now, I think Daniel Bryan's the number 2 babyface in the WWE. I think, the only reason he's not number 1 is because Cena's number 1, and Cena's number 1 because Vince McMahon said, because fuck you, that's why. T-shirts! But, Daniel Bryan to me is number 2, because if you remove him from the show, I think it leaves a huge void, especially, you watch shows like the one from this past Raw, it's like, removing Daniel Bryan from the equation really loses a lot, as opposed to, say, you take out Alberto Del Rio, you take out Sheamus, or you take out Randy Orton, who I think Orton's turning heel now, which, about fucking time, because, I was getting a little sick and tired of his stale, boring, formulaic, sleepwalking babyface matches, but, you remove those guys from the show, and pretty much any other babyface, and the show isn't significantly hurt by it because their characters aren't as strong. What's Alberto Del Rio? I praised the Alberto Del Rio babyface character a few months ago, back when he first turned, because I really liked his friendship with Ricardo, and I thought, okay, that's actually seems legitimate. It doesn't feel forced. Now he's just, I'm the happy Mexican, hero. That's what I am. I smile and I love the fans, and that's it. And the friendship with Ricardo is still there, but it's not played up as much as him just being the happy guy that loves the fans. Sheamus is probably more annoying than Cena at this point, and is really kind of directionless. God damn, is he a bully? I mean, I'm watching Raw this week, and I'm like, good Lord, and great message for kids, this whole feud with Sandow, where it's like, yeah, physical strength is better than mental strength. I'm like, fuck you. Yeah, that's a great lesson for kids, and that's my big problem with the Sheamus character, where he's like a despicable, horrible person. He's a bully and just a jackass, and yet he's marketed as the kid's hero. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, be a star or whatever. But Daniel Bryan to me is the number 2 babyface, not only because of the strength of his character, but how much they've utilized him in storylines lately. So Daniel Bryan's looking very good right now, and I hope they do something good with him going forward, because he's been a major highlight the last few weeks, especially those matches with the Shield. Those are fucking great. But that's all I've got for now. God bless Daniel Bryan and all his awesomeness, and I will see you all next week.